Hey, everybody.
Damn it.
You already messed up? Damn you.
Hey, everybody. It's
Hi, everybody.
one more time.
Hi, everybody.
And let me move this piece of gum wrapper. It's probably what's distracting me. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Moe and O photo show. My name is Moe Morales.
And I'm Omar Gonzalez.
And we're friends that have been talking about everything we want to because that's what we do. It's our channel. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about our experiences with our Sony camera, some horror stories that we had over the years, whether it's happened to us or we've heard through the grapevine.
We're going to read.
We're going to read.
Today we're going Audible.
Blue 44 Red Rover. Oh, not that kind. Sorry.
Yeah. We're going to read some horror stories and maybe like comment on them, and maybe you can comment on them and what we would have done as pro photographers. So nightmare. It was so great when you were an amateur. There were no nightmares.
There was no, because you didn't know there were nightmares. You're like, this is just everyday panic, stress, sweat.
No, but also if your camera broke and you were doing landscape photography, it's a damn. Or if a card went corrupt or something, it didn't matter as an amateur.
I mean, you're like, oh, I'm not going to get those pictures, but you weren't like, oh my God, I'm not going to get those pictures. I'm not getting paid.
Oh my God.
Or I got to give this money back.
I just read, when I was researching this, there was a woman who put up the nightmare where both cameras failed. She did a wedding and her main character, like you're like, no big deal. She was doing bridal prep. Her camera failed. She goes to her backup, which was what we would all do, and it failed. Like, what are the freaking chances? So she had to call someone to save her, and they had to drive like half an hour to bring her like her third camera, which was like her fun camera. So that would be like my Fuji X-T20, which I could rock for a wedding.
Make it work.
Yeah, she made it work. No one knew like she said, people didn't really see the difference. But I think I'm going to start packing my Fuji X-T20.
Listen, you never know. And it probably would have been just a memory card that she was dealing with, and she didn't know it.
Yeah, that happened to Georgie.
Because she probably swapped that bad memory card into the new camera.
If the second camera went bad, it was, yeah.
Wait on, man.
Well, I'm sure she tried everything, but... All right, so let's start with the Sony A. We both have the Sony a7 III. Now, I use my a7 III mostly for natural light portraits and for controlled flash environments.
Right, controlled keyword. Unfortunately, I just rock it all day long. That's what I do. It's my bread and butter now.
So my experience overall with the Sony a7 III, amazingly sharp files. They're even almost the sharpness and clarity is beating my Canon 5D Mark IV. So my experience so far is for portraits, the eye autofocus is indispensable. It's speeding me up so fast. And I'm kind of I don't know if you do this, but I'm kind of like a high burst shooter.
No.
F you.
I know. Well, we've had that discussion. Oh my God, my weight's breaking the table. So we've had the discussion in the past where I'm a TikTok shooter while Omar has
What's
learned.
a TikTok shooter?
I take my time and I TikTok shoot.
TikTok. Wow, you're like making up
I just make up words, son. It's a Moism. Put that in your pocket. So I'm
you're
a TikTok,
more meticulous.
Yeah, I'm a TikTok shooter. Even at events, I would 9 out of 10 times prefer to, unless the people are running towards us.
Yeah.
I tend to keep it. I used to tend to keep it on single. Take my shots as I wanted them. Working for Omar, I've put my continuous.
I'd have to force you and Georgie to shoot more. I don't have enough to choose from.
So, for instance, the last event I did with Omar, I shot about 600 pictures, and to me, I was like, "Oh my God, that's so many photos!" And because normally I would have taken about 300 pictures as a second shooter, and then I looked at what he shot, and I was like, "Oh."
Yeah, I overshoot. See, so somewhere the truth lies between us with Batgirl.
Can we lie with Batgirl?
Yeah.
Hey now, all right.
So, I shot 3,000.
Yeah, so he shot 3,000 plus. I shot 629, feeling like a boss. He's gonna be so happy. I crushed it for him.
Yeah. So what happened? The reason I shoot on burst. First of all, let's talk portraits. So let's say you're doing natural light portraits. I will shoot for any given look high burst because to me, first of all, I'm a super fast color. I go through photos fast using Photo Mechanic. Photo Mechanic is a software that lets you see renders of the photos in full very quickly. By the way, as an aside, Photo Mechanic doesn't work great with the Sony files. It works better with the Canon files. However, I still use it for culling. Anyway, people's expressions change so quickly that the high burst gives me the eye, I call it the eye glow or the eye wink I'm looking for. People will either have kind of a dead face and then I make them breathe, and I'm shooting away. I make them breathe, take a deep breath, turn a shoulder, and out of like 15, I find my one. as opposed to this picture didn't really work. No, instead I find the one that did work.
Right. So you have the same pose with different minute tweaks that make that picture snap.
Yeah, and I'll actually, almost like an animated movie, and again, I definitely am guilty of overshooting, but I don't give a damn.
Damn, it's your money, son.
Because I will go through...
What was it, 300,000 shutter releases?
Yeah, remember I told you? So I will actually go, when I call, I'll animate it. I'll animate the person back and forth to find the winkle, which is the wink twinkle.
No, did we explain
No,
what you meant by the wink? Because basically...
The squinch, you mean?
The wink that happens in that moment of that photo, what you were talking about. So what I think you're referring to is there's a look in someone's face when they're at peak emotion. And Omar's talking about capturing that peak emotion from going from getting ready to smile to the smile coming down because you're already done with it. He wants to capture something that happens at the very top of that peak.
Well said, damn it.
And he's like, that's why he takes 13,000 shots.
But I get the shot.
But he gets the shot and delivers. Meanwhile, I'm like, I just will take this
you're doing the
shot
hunting, which is totally fine. Not my technique, but you are looking in the viewfinder in high burst. Like you're actually seeing the person's face and trying to fire at the twinkle, at the laugh, at the... So you take 5 into my 15, because we're like 1/3 difference. So you get your shot too, but you're hunting in the viewfinder, which I find I can't do 3 things at the same time. So I'm talking to the person to get something out of them, and I'm also composing. So I fire like a maniac to kind of get my look. I paint, and then later I pick.
But that's just proof that there's no right or wrong.
True.
But somewhere between 6,000 and 4, there lies a truth.
True. And I have a workflow where out of the 15, I'll choose 3 that stay with me in my hard drives, and the other ones, I have a delete system. So I think if someone has a workflow where the delete drive, I have a rejects drive that eventually gets dumped and emptied. If you have a rejects drive system, and see my video on that, I have I have a video on to show you my whole culling system.
On the Omar Gonzalez channel.
Yeah, not this channel.
So you eventually delete all your photos that are on that drive.
Yeah.
Permanent deletion.
Yeah, so basically the ones that get culled, when I go really fast and I pick the winners, those go to the good drive. And then the rest in Lightroom gets sent to the rejects drive.
Did you ever have a family member say, hey, you took a picture of my grandmother. I didn't see any of that.
Only twice in 5 years have I gone back to the rejects drive.
Okay.
My overall experience with portraits and the Sony has been that in natural light, amazing. Eye autofocus, fantastic. Number 2, in controlled lighting situations where I put up studio for portraits, amazing. I can control the flash power. I can set up the subject, get emotion out of them, shoot in high. The flash will recycle. Amazing. But for event photography, which we recently did together, it's still not what I'm looking for.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special Sony a7 III message.
Now, we recorded this about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, unveiling the curtain here a little bit. And since we've recorded this, I've used the Sony a7 III a couple more times in extreme dark situations. So some of the stuff we are about to talk about is our early experiences with the Sony a7 III. And Moe also has used it a couple more times. So we're a little bit more confident in its ability to focus. So I just wanted to share my experience, and maybe we'll talk about it in the next podcast a little bit more. But recently, I've been sort of integrating the Sony a7 III with the Canon, you see, and I don't want to experiment during these events that I shoot. Although I set up situations where I can practice, a little bit of real-world situation. What would happen if the room was dark or if people are moving in the dark? I never want to experiment at an event. So I've slowly been integrating the Sony a7 III. So at an event, I'll have the Canon, and then during sort of like lull dance times or where maybe there is just maybe 15 minutes where I could play with the Sony, I've brought it out, tried it a little, and then put it away. And from those 15 minutes, my experience, each of those 15 minutes, the experience and confidence has grown with using it in extreme situations. Now, fast forward to the most recent event, I actually got to use it for family formals, for cocktail hour,
and it was doing a great job. All the photos were in focus. So eye autofocus. Now, mind you, I was using the Tamron 28-75. Is that what the focal length is? 28-75 lens, which is kind of like a native lens. And the other experiences were with adapted lenses, which I use as well. If you have enough room ambient, the adapted lenses with the Sigma MC11 adapter, the Canon lenses work fine. However, it's not as quick as the Tamron or any kind of native Sony lenses that I've used. So that's my concern too, because my go-to lens is the 16-35 f4, and I don't want to be in a situation where the camera is kind of hunting autofocus in low light. But I wanted to butt in and report that this last weekend, really successful test with the Sony a7 III, finding faces, great autofocus, even in using eye autofocus in low light, worked really well. I was super surprised and super excited to keep adding it. And it will replace my Canon if Canon doesn't come out with something comparable. So anyway, just wanted to butt in with that. Let's go back to the show.
Especially in the darker situations. I think if it was a natural lighting scenario, like a daytime event, you're good. You're
100% would use it. With a prime lens, beautiful bokeh.
But the problem is that we're not all working events in the daytime. So
not only do we not work events in the daytime, but each event, even the same location, is not predictable.
The lighting scenarios have been so. I've worked that event place with you 2 or 3 times already,
and they're
over
different
the years.
every time.
And every time I go there, I'm like, I didn't know it can get this dark. Like it's darker than last time.
Yeah. So this time that we shot together was super dark.
Extreme darkness. Turn off the lights, but light a candle. Anyway, it was super dark.
Yeah,
it was super dark. And so, as you know, Omar is a world famous.
Yeah, New Jersey famous mitzvah photographer.
So he asked me to tag along with him to do some shooting on the side to help him get some things that he was going to be too busy somewhere else doing, and I had no problem. I tagged along. I used his Tamron lens on my Sony body.
What you think of the lens? That lens is nice.
The lens was the only thing that didn't give me problems that night. You know,
oh man,
I can count on the lens at least.
But going through
except
your
for
files,
the autofocus at night when it got dark.
Yeah,
the autofocus got harder again because. We'll talk about
that.
So, yes, I was using the Sony. I was working in a semi-dark but semi-lit cocktail room, and I was able to move around. I was getting nice shots with the way the Godox flash that Omar provided was doing its job, giving me some shots. I ran into a situation where when it got darker in the room, the autofocus wasn't pick up because the Godox wasn't shooting out.
It's actually a flashpoint, so you're totally wrong.
So the flashpoint made by Godox
yeah, exactly.
Wasn't shooting out a beam because it's not built that way. It's not
there is no infrared autofocus assist.
Right. And I ran into a couple issues that way. But besides that, I had a really good time. And we stressed the Sony out, but Omar was still able to pull out some amazing photos out of it, which I was... Looking at the back of the camera, I was like, oh, what's he going to do with this?
So number one, if you're shooting Sony cameras in low light, you can't use the go-to autofocus mode, which is medium spot. Medium spot is like the go-to for everything. It's the quickest. And by the way, those of you that are brand new to the Sony system, you might as well turn off single autofocus, because the camera is snappier at continuous autofocus. It's somehow like evolving where continuous, you could leave it on continuous and it's perfect. All that's great until the light goes low. The little medium spot doesn't work very well. It hunts. So what you want to do is you actually want to turn on a zone, which is against every other camera system I've ever owned. You usually want a single focus point in the dark.
Right.
And so now you're on a zone and you're relying, which is kind of scary, the camera can pick up contrast in that zone of the closest object. It's smart enough to know that, hey, whatever's in the frame that's closest, I'm going to pick that up. Now, that's not always great if you have like a group of people and there's a person that's kind of like you don't want to focus on. But for the most part, if you have a group, it's going to pick them up with that zone, all those little green...
Right. Because that's what happened. I had it on my medium, and I was telling Omar I was having problems focusing, and he goes, "Go zone, son, go zone."
Yeah.
And I went to zone, and it did drastically improve what I was getting in the hit rate and the speed of my shots. Because when you have it on medium and it is hunting, you're not shooting as fast as you want because it won't release until it locks.
And that's another setting in the camera you can set, by the way. You can tell the camera, hey, priority release. There's something in the camera that says, hey, if you kind of find autofocus, do you want me to keep trying or do you want to take the shot?
Take the shot.
Take the shot. And sometimes you want to just take that shot because some images are like acceptably sharp, and it's more important to get the emotional, whatever's going on, like the moment. You can always sharpen later if you need that critical sharpness. So I usually have it to release priority, it's called, which is like, man, take the shot already, dummy. Forget the autofocus. So, and by the way, we're talking super dark here.
Yeah, no, it was like dark.
We're talking very dark. You can barely see faces, kind of dark. The camera it does an amazing job if there's any kind of ambient whatsoever. I'm talking if it's ISO 800, ISO 1600, but we're talking it was like really dark, like 6400-ish darkness. You can't see faces too much.
It was super dark. I'll just keep saying that. It was just dark. Dark, son.
You're like a Flavor Flav that just yells out.
Yo, it was dark, son.
Here, let's do it. So the conditions were super dark. We are
dark.
in a
Dark. Dark. You don't understand me, son. I'm saying it was dark. Dark. All right.
Anyway, so super dark, and I was shooting Canon, and Canon with the if you take it out of continuous and you shoot AF single, the Canon flash has the infrared autofocus that is killer. It's like Terminator, like
just like that.
And it will focus in almost complete
Same
darkness.
thing with the Nikon.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Nikon. And I think that it was the hardest thing to get used to, shooting an event in the dark without an assistant infrared light.
Infrared, yeah, with the autofocus. So we're going to have to maybe start using the lamp, which is very annoying, but you need it in emergency.
Because you want to be, catching that candid moment and not people going, oh, what's he doing?
Yeah, so it is annoying, but I think in an emergency, you got to turn the lamp on.
Got to get the shot.
Get the shot.
Doesn't matter how.
So autofocus, we'll recap really quick if that was like too mumbo jumbo, but if you're using a Sony camera, my recommendation is to use continuous focus for most of it. In extreme dark situations, you may either need to get out of continuous and have a Sony flash that does have sort of autofocus assist and just shoot single. Or if you're using our aftermarket stuff and shooting continuous, use a zone, because the zone can pretty much see in the dark.
Life. Save your life, son.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of shooting in the dark, tell them about what you found that you were able to pull out of such a dark photos.
Oh, yeah. So I told Moe, and this is kind of my general rule, is to over-under.
It's like 55. That's the over-under.
No, to underexpose. As opposed to, you can't do anything with something where the flash blows out someone's skin. I just passed that photo up. You can't do it. You could maybe black and white it is the best you could do. But a photo that's dark, man, it's fantastic because you actually can bring the room and the person back. So when your photos came into Lightroom, I'm like, damn, I told him dark, but not this dark. Like, he did what I asked. And I was so pleasantly surprised that the dynamic range of the Sony was unbelievable. It was almost like 3 stops of darkness brought back. And I'll put the before and after here so we could see. Beautiful. And what's great is it brings the background back as well. So since the person's skin is almost the same as whatever the ambient was doing in the background, you can bring back both equally, which is always my goal.
Because we gelled. Remember gelling?
Yeah. Tell them about gelling.
So again, if you're shooting in certain ambient light, you want to make sure you have a gel on it that goes
gel
with
on
it.
your flash, yeah.
That way, when you take the flash and it exposes, you get the shot nice and bright in front of you with the right white balance, but it also helps bring in the background with the same white balance.
Yeah, they match. Yeah, and it's great. So you end up getting like really seamless
lighting. So as you can see, I mean, it's still a work in progress. We're going to try to figure out how to better use this camera because obviously a lot of people are still using this for events in the dark.
It totally works.
But we just have to find, like, again, I think the flash system we used with it could be also creating the problem for us.
Yeah, because
we
it doesn't have. You have to shoot single focus, and then you have to shoot infrared.
So do you want to have a great recharging fast, not dying in a hot minute flash that costs a very reasonable amount of money, or do you want to spend $800 on what Sony offers,
which has the infrared? But yeah,
$800 though. I mean, no, it's very expensive, the brand new one.
Yeah, and the other annoying thing is the Sonys are better at shooting continuous focus, and you cannot get infrared anything with continuous focus. That shuts off on every camera system.
Done. It's a wrap.
Forget it. So anyway, I love it 80%, but that last 20% at low, we were in the lowest light ever. I don't feel comfortable with it. I'd rather have my Canon on single focus shooting infrared, and they don't even see it also. That's the other issue. This would be a lamp.
That lamp, like, hey! Especially in that dark room. It's like, woo.
Yeah, when everyone's pupils are huge.
Like, is the party over? Are we leaving? Is it last call? Last call? Oh, my. So we're going to work on on getting better at shooting at this in super dark events. Because we love the camera. Omar loves it 80% of the time. I love it all the time because it's my only camera. And I think we're going to make it work. So in theory, that's kind of like a super horror story that we went into. I think there's so many situations that fall into horror stories.
Oh, yeah.
I think what Omar and I want to do, we're going to read a quick horror story for you.
All right.
And give you the sense of, give us your feedback as we give our feedback of what we would have done differently or the same.
Okay. Here we go. This is from the photographer Wasim Ahmad. The title, Child's Play. I was shooting a wedding in 2011 at the Oviatt Penthouse in LA. I left my camera bag with extra lenses and bodies in the bridal suite while shooting the ceremony and reception. Nothing unusual. Really? He leaves his stuff behind?
No.
Go suck it.
Nah, son. That's your first problem, Wasim.
Oh boy, we're already commenting on the poor guy. All right, hold on. We don't even know where this is going. Also, I've kept the cards that had shot with it in a memory card wallet in the bag as well. During the reception, I came back to grab a lens and 2 small children. Freaking kids. Maybe age 5 or 6 were in my camera bag and had grabbed and hidden everything. Can't be true. And had grabbed and hidden everything in it about the entire room. So they set up like a little
scavenger hunt for themselves. Good luck with that, Wasim.
I shooed them away. Man, that's messed up. I shooed them away and found everything pretty quickly and put it. Oh, he's good at the scavenger hunt.
He's like, I've been here, done that.
This happened to me last week.
Can't play with me, son.
Dude, keep the stuff on you. And put it back in the bag and went back out to continue shooting. The night ends, and the couple wanted some extra photos in the empty streets of LA, so I obliged them, and by the time I got back to my hotel room, it was close to 2 a.m. I go to dump my cards from my card wallet, and it's not there.
Dun, dun, dun.
I realized that in addition to hiding all my lenses, the kids took the card wallet too. Panicked, he ran back to the hotel, which was only a few blocks away, and he tried to bang it back in. I banged on the door and hollered, but after a few minutes realized that maybe no one was there anymore. I wasn't even sure if that's what happened to the cards. My mind was racing, thinking I lost half the wedding and the portrait shoot that spanned 3 locations beforehand when finally one of the cleaning staff heard the noise. It's freaking 3 a.m. cleaning? I'm onto your story, brother.
Am I?
No one's cleaning at 3.
He was at the club, Wasim.
And came down and opened the door. I explained my situation and they let me up to poke around the bridal suite and found the card wallet, under the bed. I was so relieved. That was the day I learned to keep my spent cards in my pocket and not in my camera bag.
So there's so many things I would have done differently. First of all, when I move locations, I tend to move my gear. There's staging areas that I always find because I need my gear with me. I need it as close to me as possible because if I need to change lenses or I need to grab a different card, something starts failing, you need your gear next to you. You can't run a race and have no spare tires.
Agreed.
Ooh.
But anyway, Formula One there.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think that's the first thing I would have done differently. Obviously he learned that, but I definitely would have had everything closer to me. I don't like the idea of shoving the wallet card in my pockets either. Like,
That neither. I don't like that either.
I think I always have I have a bag that I always shoot with. I keep all my spare stuff that I'm going to need immediately. Extra lenses, batteries.
Yeah, I love the messenger bag.
Yes, my Think Pink messenger bag I have.
Think pink.
Think
Nice.
Tank. So, and what I do is I shove everything in there. My cards, everything's right there. I have my extra lenses that I'm going to use because you kind of already know at an event or a situation which lenses you're going to go to or not go to. So if you have 8 lenses, you probably have 3 in this bag, 1 on the camera.
Agreed.
So that's what I would have done a little different. I would have kept everything in my bag on me and not have to worry about, oh my God, where's my stuff? Because I don't know if you guys notice about me, but I'm not a trusting person. You may have heard.
It's also how we grew up.
Yeah,
There's people who leave their car unlocked and their house unlocked.
Yeah, not me.
We grew up in the city, so I agree with you on the and Wasim, I was guilty as Wasim, and I was at an event and the camera locked up. You know, the famous one where the card went corrupt.
Right.
And my backup camera was a little far. It wasn't ridiculously far, but it wasn't next to me, which is what you said you would do. You would kind of like move your operation. So I had to run a little far. So that's number one. And number two, I also have a memory card wallet, but it does not stay on my body because you can grab your car keys or something and whatever. It stays on the bag and it has a clip. So and I learned that from a horror story because my wallet, one guy came up to me in a party. He's like, "Is this yours?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's the whole event."
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks,
you
sir.
want $1? Here's $1 because you just saved me thousands. Thank you. He's looking at you like, sir, what? No, nothing. Never mind. Have a great day. Enjoy. Go dance. I'll take a picture of you later.
And that was early on clients. That doesn't happen anymore. And I got the clip. So now if it quote falls, it would just be hanging from the bag.
There's no such thing as too much protection of the memory cards.
Yeah.
Redundancy, clips, double bubble wrap, whatever you can. That is what the money's from. I mean, if you're just gonna shoot for yourself and you lose them, you're gonna be upset, but you're not gonna really like have like crying in the corner type of moments like we would if we lost our clients 3 memory cards worth of stuff.
All right. So you want to do one?
I'll see if my reading skills are up to par first.
All right. You want to do the Tuscany one? All right. Story number 2.
This is from Gerard Stamato. I butchered that like nobody's business. Tuscany, as you know, the dream destination for most photographers. The couple had told me their actual wedding day would be on a Wednesday, so I booked my trip to be in Tuscany on a Tuesday evening. A few days before the trip, the couple told me that their plans had changed and the wedding ceremony would be on a Tuesday. Interesting indeed, especially because I had post-wedding portrait shoot on Monday in Finland. And that couple was going to be on their honeymoon, so the session could not be postponed.
All right, so let me get this straight. The wedding was originally Wednesday, and he was arriving on a Tuesday?
He was arriving on a Tuesday
Mistake
because
number one.
Well, he already overbooked himself.
He overbooked himself. All right, keep going.
In this case, he overbooked himself because of the distance and traveling.
Yeah, totally.
So where was I? So I started to search for a new flight and found one combination from 2 different airlines. One from Turco in Stockholm, and the second from Stockholm to Rome. From Rome, I would rent a car and start my 3-hour drive to Tuscany. I exited the terminal in Stockholm and to get my luggage. I checked in and dropped off my bags. Then I noticed that my flight to Rome was delayed by 40 minutes.
Whoa.
I was originally supposed to get to Rome by 11:30 p.m., and the rental car companies were closing at midnight. With the 40-minute delay, I would get there at 1:10
Whoa,
a.m.
no rent-a-car.
And no rental car.
And the wedding's the next morning.
Yes. Luckily, and I mean really luckily, the flight had a huge tailwind and the aircraft caught back most of the 40 minutes. But when I got to Rome, unloading the baggage was delayed, and we were told the bags would not be available till at least 1:15 a.m.
Oh, boy.
I asked the airport personnel if I could pick up my rental car first and then my bags. No, it wasn't possible.
No,
not here. No, do what to say. Sorry.
They're not in Russia.
I know. It's my story.
Tuscany.
It's my story I'm reading. So, bags or car? The cameras were with me in my backpack. I thought, so maybe the car, and started walking to customs and then saw my bag come out of the conveyor. Run, Jerry, run, I said to myself. And even though I had looked at the airport map beforehand, finding the rental
Oh, please. You can't ever find the rental.
But
Yeah.
I made it by
Oh.
11:56 p.m. Finally, I got to the Tuscany wedding venue at 3:30 a.m. Ready to shoot some early getting
Like 3 hours later.
readies. Some early getting
Yeah,
readies.
whatever.
Whatever you wrote there, Gerard, making me sound literate more than I already am.
Oh, all right. So I got a couple of things here. Now, first of all, him booking something on the month, you always want a day buffer. I think if you're doing anything travel,
If you're doing an event of a scale of a wedding, right?
wedding for sure.
And you know that you have to travel to Italy, you can't be greedy for the money and book something that you're going to do late into Monday night
Agreed.
to then have to fly out super Tuesday morning.
Now, we
'Cause
don't know the backstory. Maybe he's doing it as a favor. Like maybe he said he's booked.
maybe he has assistants that prep his stuff for him, charge his stuff, get his stuff
Yeah,
ready,
yeah.
all that stuff. He might have all that stuff set up in hindsight, but that's still really risky to back it like that. But
Yeah,
money's
always
money.
assume a plane will be canceled and that you have to leave the next day. Will you still have enough time? Like he was planning it to get there in the evening on Tuesday,
Right.
the evening before the wedding.
Right.
That's tight.
He was already pushing it.
Yeah,
was already pushing it.
And we could see since he mentioned he had a Monday, he couldn't leave Monday, but he could have left Monday night. He could have left
Well, he could have if there were flights available.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, we
don't
don't know the
anything.
scenario. You know how, like, a flight from Newark to Missouri, you would think it'd be very common, but it's not. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So anyway, his part in not preparing for something going wrong with the flight could have made this a nightmare. Like,
Oh my
imagine
gosh.
he wouldn't have gotten to the
venue, the wedding,
till
anything.
9:30 that morning. He would have already missed his opportunity to take some early morning shots because most weddings you're starting at 8:00 with
bridal prep,
right?
yeah.
So I don't know.
I think something that I'll bounce off this story is I always think the nightmare if I forget something. So I try to think of did he have the minimum gear in his shoulder bag? Meaning, like, let's say he could have ran from the airport to take a taxi to the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Could he have shot the wedding with what was on his person?
In his blue jeans and his pajama top.
To-
That's how he traveled.
Yeah, but think about it. If he was relying on luggage service,
Mm-hmm.
let's just say his luggage got lost, could you still shoot the wedding? So I always think worst case scenario, I'm on this plane. If I land and got to take an Uber
son.
all the way to the wedding and shoot it with all right, I got 3 sets of batteries. I got 1 speed light. I'm going to rock that freaking speed
Like
light.
a boss. Like you own that, son.
And I got two lenses. Let's just, freaked out. I have one 24 to 70. So the person has a 24 to 70. They have all their cards and they have a flash. Freaking rock that wedding, man.
Like no one would even know. Like
No one would even know.
I'd be like, yo, that guy Moe, he was so light and agile. Did you see him?
He came with 1 bag.
Matter of fact, he was doing that old paparazzi. You know what I'm talking about? The
He was like
paparazzi?
bouncing light. Oh, this one little light he had.
He was so small.
This was the best. And meanwhile, like your photography bag is going around the carousel like all night with all the with all the
Just
like.
stuck on that one bump.
So I think the nightmare there. I think the lesson is like, do you have something you can rock with you if you're
Always.
doing
Always. Every time I travel and I know I'm traveling for professional photo work, my carry-on bag is my camera bag.
Yeah.
And I put whatever I need personally in my camera bag.
Yeah.
Because nothing to me is more important. And you're not going to check that in at the door. You're not going to put that into the luggage rack. You're going to have everything rocking and roll there. I will show up in my Fiji pajamas and
Hey.
rock your wedding.
That's another good suggestion. Is maybe you should be dressed to like in any
Minimal.
situation. Don't be. No, I'm saying like on the plane.
That's
Maybe.
what I'm saying. Minimal dress attire. Like, for instance, the NBA has their players travel in suits now.
Oh, okay.
So you don't want to be in a suit,
But you could, like, if you had to shoot a wedding in the black jeans,
black slacks, a nice dark shirt, something
Yeah.
like that. If you had to pull it off, say, hey,
don't put on your athletic wear just because you're on a plane.
just grab the husband and be like, listen, this is what happened with my flight, but I'm going to rock your wedding. All right? Look at me. Stay focused, Joseph.
Oh my god, poor guy had like no sleep whatsoever. That must have been a horror story.
Now, no matter how good Jure is, I'm sure looking back at this work, it's either going to be one of two things. The best he's ever shot,
Oh my god.
or he feels like it's subpar for him. There's no in between. It's
And
not going to be good.
the funny thing is the client won't ever notice.
No, the guy's like, that guy Gerard, he was so amazing. I've changed his name like 5 times
yeah,
now, right?
also your accent is like, hey, that's Gerard.
He went from Italian to
You
French
were
to
in
Russian.
Russia.
I just like Putin.
yeah.
I just like saying Putin.
So my horror story is like a personal horror story is knowing that a storm is coming for a portrait session. Like I'm talking
Outdoor?
hailstorm is coming.
Outdoor portrait session?
Outdoor.
Okay.
We're shooting in South Orange, and I have a little radar app, so you could see the freaking monster storm, like.
I'm coming on my. Look at me.
So the timing, you can time it from the little So we're actually timed perfectly. We're timed where I could shoot for about 35 minutes before anything happens, and the client could get in their car, and we could all drive away, and then the sky will rip open.
So best case scenario, how long would you take normally? So you say you could shoot for 35 minutes. But
so
how long
a
would you prefer?
A portrait session is about 45 minutes. I could get everything I need.
Okay.
A good portrait session where there's an extra outfit, whatever, is about an hour. I shoot teenagers, so they're done pretty quickly, and I move really fast and I'm crazy. So if you're shooting an adult, you have more time, but I have like about 45 minutes of peak family attention.
Right.
And,
That's the key word right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey.
So I knew I could do it in 35. So if the client got there on time.
So you say be here at 3:30, knowing that they show up at 3:45. You're thinking from 3:45 to 4:30, I can get amazing shots.
Totally. And in the whole time prior to, I'm like, all right, I see the storm. We know the storm timing. I could rock this. It all relied on
Arrival.
the client getting there on time. So when I was there ready, I could see this storm was so crazy that you can see the blue sky, the gray, and then the black is about to come. Like the black is like still in the distance, half an hour
So
away.
you hear like, whoa, getting closer.
Anyway, they arrived everyone's 15 minutes late everywhere. And so this was the one time when I needed the client to be there on time so I could start right away. I knew my plan. I had every location set. And just like you said, it would either be the worst shoot ever or one of the best. It ended up, thank God, some of the best shots I ever took of a kid. Because, first of all, the kid was awesome. She was game. I'll put a picture up here. She beautiful red hair. The coolest looking kid. She was kind of like a tough kid. Thank God it wasn't a nightmare, like super shy kid or something. We shoot 20 minutes. I did the whole shoot in about 19 minutes. During the shoot, the wind kicked up. And everyone's hair, and now this started to be like kind of a benefit. The hair was like really dramatic.
Yeah.
And then it was just like one drop, bloop, two drop. When the storm is kind of like that? It's one of those like crazy. Yeah. And it was so quick. It was like 3 drops, and then it was like,
Sorry.
we're running back to the car. It's like, bye, that was great. I didn't think I had anything. And then when I came back, the portraits of the girls were beautiful. The kids' portraits were awesome. It was great.
I don't have that many horror stories. I think I find that I have had run-ins with small spaces that I was told were bigger than they were.
Oh, yeah.
I love to go to an area that I've never shot before to see it before I actually shoot.
It makes you,
It's not always available. I'm a boudoir shooter, and I shoot women, men, family, not just in boudoir, but usually I
Family
do
boudoir.
Yes,
Love it. New
especially
genre.
Like look at those diapers, boy. That's awkward. Delete that.
No, that's great. That's staying in. You saw it right here.
Anyway, so what happens is when you get to a location that you've been told, you always say, "Hey, am I going to have room to walk around your bed? Am I going to have room to walk around your living room?"
You rely on the 85.
Right.
It's like such a great compression, and then you're like, whoa.
You get there and you're like, "Ooh." You turn. The places I've shot in were so small I had to go outside to change my mind. If you ordered a lot of pizza, you couldn't eat it indoors.
How small was it?
It was so small. One time, beautiful shoot came out of it. I mean, beautiful shoot came out of it. I had to go to Patterson. If anyone knows Patterson, there's certain parts of Patterson that you're like, wow, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
And then you're like a block later, you're like,
It's like Warzone.
someone help me.
Yeah.
So I was in one of those areas where there was nothing wrong with the apartment, because when I got to the apartment, I was shooting 2 ladies, and it was a really nice shoot. I'll provide right here. It was a really nice shoot. Everything went well once I got in the apartment. Getting my gear from my car to the apartment, I had never been more nervous in my life.
Oh, boy.
Because there was people selling drugs on the corner. There was people on the stoop smoking pot, and other things were being smoked, like And I'm like, why do I buy a photographer again?
Oh my gosh.
But you know what? The shoot ended up being amazing. The girl who lived there walked me back to my car.
Oh, that's so sad.
And I'm like, did I look that scared? Because I didn't ask her to. But she walked me back to my car, and I'm like, thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Like, honestly, I didn't thank her enough because, like, to the place.
This is a Marine,
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen.
to the place, my heart was like. But on the way back, I'm like, she's with me. They'll jump her first.
Oh my God.
No, I'm kidding. No, but that was like, I think that's the most scariest thing I've ever had to deal with. But that was an environmental thing. Doing the business I do, I'm going to be in those kind of environments sometimes.
Yeah, your nightmare situations are like, what am I given here? Which could be like a photographic challenge. Like, hey, I'm going to try to the right lens. To maybe it's the 23mm boudoir shot.
So I had to use my 28 to 75 when I had it back from my Nikon years ago, the Tamron, at a boudoir location that I was planning to do 85, but it was like this big. Like
so
you had the wall, the bed right next to the wall, the door. But no, I don't have a lot of stories that way. But
anyway, that's good. I think the lesson to learn here.
Life is about lessons.
Oh my gosh, just try to be as prepared as you can, and even if you're completely prepared, you could be just like the woman that lost both cameras. You can just bring 5 cameras that can all fail, but just at least increase your chances.
Ultimate point of our story here is never lock in a plan. Have multiple plans. In the Marine Corps, you learn plan A is equal to plan Z. You have to have as many plans as possible because whatever you're told is going to be the case is not always the case.
That's true. That's good. And to relate it to maybe like if you're not a pro photographer, your nightmare is maybe you traveled somewhere beautiful in the world and you only brought your one camera. So learn how your phone works.
Like you have like a 55 millimeter lens on your camera, and you want to take this large
the Great
landscape.
Wall of China.
Yeah, so you're gonna have to panel on that phone, son.
All right, I think that's good.
That's more than good.
That's great.
You're awesome.
Oh my God, we should end every
High
episode
five.
like that.
Yeah. Oh, low miss.